Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon in 17 degrees of Virgo, which will be exact on September 9th at 2:01 p.m. East Coast time in the US, which is also New York time, and 7:01 p.m. London time. Now, the new moon, of course, is always a beginning for a new moon cycle, which most of you know already. And I will also be talking about the best and most potent times to set new moon intentions for these next 28 days towards the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But first, I will talk about what this new moon chart is all about. So this new moon will be in detail-oriented, practical Virgo, and that provides an opportunity to learn about being of service. You know, who are we when we're being of service? And what might strengthen our focus on improving our daily routines, getting organized, for example, and taking care of our health matters, if there is such a thing, and if there is something that needs to be taken care of in that regard. Now, this will also be a great time to begin new projects that demand attention to detail, list making, taking pride in small accomplishments. And we might start a new health regime, you know, maybe paying closer attention to what we're eating, our diet, our day-to-day exercise routines. We could also set up specific routines that help us manage our lives in a more constructive and mindful way, being maybe a little bit more present to what works and what doesn't work. Now, another great way to step into the higher vibration of Virgo, as best as you can, recognize that humility, self-improvement, and being of service bring you closer to your inner divinity and your soul's path. And what you can ask yourself with this new moon is, how could I, as a spirit being, operate more efficiently in the physical world and stay connected to my heart center? Because as spirit beings, we are coming always from love. You know, we are love at the core as spirit beings. But of course, in our human existence, through conditioning, through trauma, through experiences, you know, sometimes this heart center gets closed off, or we start to separate ourselves from our heart. So how could you, as a spirit being, you know, and kind of connecting to that again, that you are this spirit being that is connected to love and the heart, operate more efficiently in the physical world and stay connected to your heart center, right? And might tweaking my daily routine help me function in the physical world? You know, because sometimes when we're, you know, our day-to-day really very often becomes sort of like an autopilot. And we don't always think about, you know, like how we eat, whether we exercise or not, how we exercise, how we set up our work routines, how much time we give ourselves to get to work or to start our day. You know, all that stuff, you know, very often is sort of like runs on like an autopilot, and we don't even think, is this really working for me, right? So what might tweaking my daily routines help me function in the physical world, right? How might that help me function in the physical world? And might that also support me in being of service to something greater than me, being of service to what it is that I'm already doing, being of service to myself and my family. I mean, there's so many things we could be in service to, right? And what benefits might I reap by discerning between the essential and the redundant? And that's definitely a Virgo question. If you have a lot of Virgo in your chart, you know what I'm talking about here, right? Discerning between what's really necessary, what do we really need, or what's really essential for us to be having a healthy routine, or to be in our best well-being, right? To have well-being. And what's redundant? You know, what's extra? Stuff that maybe we don't necessarily need, but we think we do, right? From our conditioning, from social conditioning, could be from a lot of reasons, right? Now, what would simplifying my life look like? Again, that's a very specific Virgo question, right? Now, if you want to have access to the new moon questions from this video via my weekly forecasts, and also you could also get access to the members only full moon video that I record every month, then definitely stay tuned until the end of the video. I will talk a little bit more about memberships and what that's about, okay? Now, back to the new moon. The new moon opposes Neptune in Pisces. Okay, well, we just had a full moon in the Pisces Virgo polarity, and now we have a new moon that has an opposition to Neptune in Pisces. So there's a little bit of resonance, with back to the full moon that we just had. So what does that exactly mean, having Neptune oppose the new moon? So this configuration is really asking us to find a balance between understanding the facts, Virgo, right? And being guided by our intuitive knowingness, Neptune in Pisces. And we're also being invited to explore beyond the details and put our trust in the universal process and universal timing. And this is important because when we get too much focused on the details and how to make everything work and how to make everything perfect and how to improve everything, we tend to forget that there's a divine consciousness within us, all around us, and that this divine consciousness is taking care of everything. And so by trusting that that's there makes it so much easier to move with improvement, to move with the details, to focus on, what it is that we want to, get better at it, more wholesome with, right? But we need to also honor the universal process, right? So allow for some downtime and resting in the next 28 days, and also allow for some self-connection with your inner divinity, because that downtime and that inner connection with inner divinity is really going to help us be more present in the here and now. It's going to help us to be more connected to the energy field around us. And therefore, it will make it easier for us to have more clarity around what it is that needs improving, what it is that needs to be made more whole and needs to have a more simpler expression of itself. I mean, all these things are easier to do when we're able to be really in our zone, in our connectedness with ourselves, with our higher selves, right? With our lighter selves. So ask yourself here, how can I best connect to the subtle messages of my body and soul? And remember that, universal intuitive knowingness is always felt in your body. It's felt in your energy body, in your feeling body, in your physical body. These are all connected. So you can feel these things, but they're subtle messages. So how can I best be connected to those subtle messages of my body and soul? And what if I placed the mind in service to those subtle messages? And how might I connect to the heart and mind energies? Because so often we're only connected to the mind energies and we forget about the heart energies because we're not very often, we're not conditioned into that and we're not practicing that on a day-to-day basis. Where else, we use our mind for problem solving and for figuring stuff out continuously, all the time. Too much so where we sometimes drive ourselves crazy, right? But it is important to be able to use both and to connect the two, right? Because when the heart is present and open, then the mind can function more clearly and we can discern better. Rather than going into panic mode, we tend to go into more observer mode, and we're capable of actually seeing what is and what works. So they need each other. The heart and the mind, they need each other, right? So how might I connect the heart and mind energies? And what activities or daily routines come to mind that might support me in being more present in my intuitive, creative practices, right? So something that can really support you in being more present in connection with your intuitive, creative side. So we're also invited to have open-hearted connections with the world around us with that Neptune placement, right? So it's like really being able to see how everything's interconnected and that there is no ending and no beginning really on an energetic level between us and others. So what might striking a balance between logic and intuition look like? And between discernment and compassion? And between scientific and spiritual approach to life. So you can see as you hear me say all this, right? This sounds similar to what we talked about in the full moon in Pisces 2 weeks ago, right? But the slight different component is that this time it's Neptune that's involved. And so with Neptune being involved so strongly, there's definitely this sense of being in your spirit being, in your higher self, you know, in your lighter self, in the place that you imagine is the best of you, right? Now, the Sun was conjunct Neptune in Pisces on March 4th of this year. And so we want to look back to that time. And, you know, now that the Sun is opposing Pisces, we gain a greater perspective and a deeper understanding of how far we've come since March, right? So think back to that time, you know, beginning of March, and ask yourself, how did I see myself back then? What was my dream? How did I imagine myself being in the world? And where am I heading now? What has shifted within me since? And what has come to fruition in regards to that vision or dream, or how I imagined things, how I felt myself tune into, you know, who I am on a soul level. Now, this new moon is also making a trine to Pluto in Capricorn and a sextile to Jupiter in Scorpio. And Jupiter and Pluto are connected via sextile as well. So this is really sort of like a really beautiful configuration. And it's an opportunity to go deeper, to go inward, to go downward, and maybe even backwards into the past, finding greater ways to empower ourselves and others, and to be more truthful and authentic in our connection with others and with ourselves on an emotional level. Now, here you can ask yourselves, what if I simply observed my conditioned mind and its survival strategies? And this is a very important question, because, you know, when we have certain thought forms that come up, very often they're connected, you know, to something in the past. And so it's important to see, like, if I have certain survival strategies, which we all do, right? Because, you know, we're all human, so we all have survival strategies. You know, because at one time or another in our lives, something happened that was not, you know, ideal, perfect, as we imagined as spirit beings it should be, right? So in human form, we tend to, you know, when we experience, you know, certain disempowerments or traumas, we or wake up calls that are sort of like, can be sometimes harsh wake up calls. We tend to create a judgment, or we tend to create a story around what that means for us and how we can best protect ourselves from that happening again. So these are survival strategies, right? And we all have them, smaller or larger, depending on what we've experienced. And so basically all of those defensive thoughts and problem-solving drives that stem from painful or traumatic experiences in the past, or even something that was handed down to us by our caregivers, right? Like, because as children, we sponge up a lot of stuff from our caregivers as well, our parents or people that have raised us, right? And so we definitely, we feel their energies and their traumas and their disempowerments as well. So we might have soaked something up that wasn't even something that we experienced, but something that we experienced, but something that our caregivers experienced. And so their conditioning also has an imprint on us as well, right? So we have to think about these, what are these survival strategies, right? So what if I simply observe my conditioned mind and its survival strategies? And I really mean observe. It's not about making a story about it. It's not about judging it. It's not about trying to figure out how to change it, but just observing it. Where do these show up? How is that connected to my past? And what might happen if I could allow myself to trust life, others, and myself 5% more than I have up until now? Because very often when we have, these survival strategies that we have, they also have to do sometimes with not trusting ourselves or others or life, right? There's sort of like a protective wall that comes up or goes up. And, I've talked about this in previous videos. But I think it bears repeating because it's so powerful. These protective mechanisms are so powerful within us, right? Now, let's talk about Mercury. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, and so it's important in this new moon chart. Mercury is currently in its own sign. It is in Virgo at the time of the new moon, and so the energy is therefore quite exalted. Whenever a planet is in its own sign, the energy feels stronger because it feels very comfortable there, the planet. So matters of the mind will be experienced more strongly. So Mercury will be in Virgo until September 21st, and this gives us some time to recognize where we have ignored important symptoms, feelings, or hunches, and eliminate the unnecessary or the dysfunctional. So the mind will really help us to kind of tune into that and gain some clarity with the help of the heart. So ask yourself, what does my mind chatter say? And is it helpful? And does it help me make decisions that are in alignment with my lighter vibration, my love vibration? In other words, is my mind in service to my heart? Right? So these are some very powerful questions, and I think they don't need any explanation. So, and feel free always with these questions, to either meditate on them, to sit with the questions, to write on them, journal on them, to just have them in the back of your mind throughout the month, throughout the next 28 days. And remember, you do not have to answer these questions right away. This is not an exercise in answering questions. This is an exploration of how we can connect with the energies as they are this month, right? So it's really a process of allowing answers to come in, allowing answers to come to us, not necessarily seeking out the answers, okay? Just want to say that for people who are new to my videos. Now, Mercury is also part of a Grand Earth Trine involving Saturn in Capricorn and Uranus in Taurus. And this resonates, again, back to the last full moon from August 26th when the Sun in Virgo was part of that same Grand Earth Trine. So what you can ask yourself here is, how do I manage my time? Do I have enough of it or too much of it? How do I work 5% smarter rather than 1% harder? And I think that's a very powerful question here because, with the earth signs, we want efficiency. We want to make things work well, realistically, productively, in the real world, right? So we're definitely, needing to know, are we actually, doing things in a way that helps us move forward and manifest things in a smarter way? Or are we actually like pushing and struggling and like trying to move against the tides or struggle up a mountain, right? And when that feeling when you feel like you're really kind of like exhausted and trying to, more and just one more thing and oh my God, right? And that's when we're working too hard, right? So how could we work 5% smarter rather than 1% harder? And what if I could reinvent my relationship to time in such a way that I could get more done in less time? And this does not mean squeezing more stuff into less time, right? It's important to remember that the mind might go to that assumption straight away. Oh, I got to do more in less time. It's not about that, right? It's more about that. How can we accomplish more with ease in less time, right? And that happens when we're being very present, when we're really connected to our heart, when we're open, when we're trusting, when we're allowing things to unfold, right? That's when we're really able to then, get more done in less time. Taking a breath, for example, really letting yourself breathe. That can be such a small thing, but it can be so powerful. I don't know if you've ever noticed that when you're rushing and when you're trying to squeeze a lot of things into a small amount of time, your breath is very shallow, and sometimes we even stop breathing, a certain amount of time, just because we're like trying to push more into one moment. And I've noticed that when I have stopped myself in those moments, when I try to rush and do more and more and more, when I stop myself in these moments and just take a deep breath and just go, okay, I'm going to widen the time right now, and I'm going to effortlessly fit everything in that needs to fit in, and everything is going to be A-okay. And the moment I take that breath and the moment I say that to myself and I just allow myself to really feel the stretching of time like that, it's almost like it gives me the space to really let things happen way faster, but with a lot more effortlessness, with ease, right? So what if you could reinvent your relationship to time in such a way that you could get more done in less time? So I hope this question now is clear in the way I wanted to pose it. And what might a review of my current habits show me? So, just taking a look at how do I manage my time right now? Do I give myself plenty of space in between appointments or for a particular task? Do I have the spaciousness that I need to be able to breathe in between, to nourish myself, to take care of myself, to have plenty of water, to eat, to stretch in between, to get up and kind of like let my body expand in between, right? Do I give myself that time? So, what might a review of my current habits show me? So that's a really, really fantastic question, right? And how do I maintain my home and my workspace? Is there any clutter in my life that is asking to be removed at this time? And this is a really fundamental Virgo question in a sense, because Virgo is all about decluttering, right? Like making sure that we have sort of like a smooth surface so that we can have that spaciousness and that clarity, right? And then the other part of Virgo, of course, has to do with health. So how do I take care of my health? If my body had any say in this, what might it be saying to me right now? And that is something you could journal on, or meditate on. Great, great question, right? Now, Mars and Saturn are both still stationing at the time of this new moon, and they're both in Capricorn. Even though they are both no longer retrograde, they've both gone direct by now. And so this invites us to be more conscious and aware of our masculine energies and our drive for accomplishment. What are our commitments, for example, right? So what you can ask yourself here is like, what am I committed to? What is emerging that has been in process for several months already? And could I give myself permission to take it one moment at a time? And of course, that's a very important Saturn question, right? Especially when Saturn is stationing. Could I give myself permission to take it one moment at a time? Saturn is all about slowing down, right? And could I give myself that permission if I experimented with the idea that all things come to me in due time? And again, that's also very Saturnian in nature, this question, right? Because Saturn will always reward us. Saturn will always reward us as long as we really do our work. We take due diligence at doing something without rushing, one thing at a time, building a solid, healthy foundation. That's what Saturn is all about. It's all about making something last for a long time. And then Saturn is going to reward us if we do that, if we don't cut corners, if we don't try to rush into anything, if we don't try to speed things up. That's when Saturn will reward us. So could I take the pressure off just for a quick right now? That's a great question. Definitely a great question to ask for these next 28 days. Now, feel free to also watch my last forum when I talked about these station phases and their direct motion in relationship to our own birth charts. That's a really great forum to watch if you haven't seen it yet. And if you would like to get this 90-minute webinar, go to my webinar page on my website. You can click on services where it says services on the top right-hand corner of the website. Or if you go to it on your phone, you have to go to the menu button, click on the menu button, and then scroll down until you get to where it says services, and underneath there should be something called webinars. And then you click on webinars, and you'll be able to purchase this forum until September 14th only. So remember, if you want that to purchase that before September 14th. Now, having entered her pre-retrograde shadow phase, we have Venus that we're going to be talking about. Venus went into that shadow phase on September 2nd already. And at the time of the new moon, Venus is already in Scorpio. And it just entered Scorpio literally like 8.5 hours before the new moon became exact. So it's in 0 degrees of Scorpios, which that's sort of an exalted degree for a sign because it's new. So there's like a sort of like this new energy of Venus being in Scorpio, Venus being excited that she's in this new energy, and she's sort of like, wow, what's this all about? And so she will journey through Scorpio for a really unusually long time as well this time around. Because of her retrograde phase in October, November. So she will be in Scorpio for most of September, all of October, and for most of December. And in between, she will be in Libra for a little bit before she comes back into Scorpio because of the retrograde phase. Okay, so because Venus is in Scorpio for such a long time, Venus obviously is very excited to enter such a powerful sign, because Scorpio is all about our empowerment in our relationship with ourselves and with others. So for now, as it is in its pre-retrograde shadow, simply ask yourself, what do I value about myself and others? Do my relationships empower me? What's my relationship to my finances, especially shared finances with other people? And also remember that as Venus moves through that shadow phase, she will, during the retrograde phase, she will come back to some of these places that she's already been in. So we are sort of like really reviewing a lot of these things 2-3 times, especially if you have personal planets in those the specific in Scorpio and in the late degree of, early to mid degree of Scorpio and late degree of Libra, right? Now, we will cover this in more detail in our September forecasting forum, so feel free to join us if you want to know how this might be affecting you personally, especially if you're a Taurus or Libra sun sign, moon sign, or rising sign. This is going to be definitely very important for you. But also if you are a Scorpio, sun sign, rising sign, moon sign, right? And this 90-minute webinar will be live on September 27th at 6 p.m. New York time. And if you can't make it live, it can also be purchased as an MP4 video recording. The fee is $37. And this fee also includes access to the members-only full moon video if you're not yet a member. Now, you can register at my homepage, astrologercoach.com. If you scroll down to the Forecasting Forum Countdown, you just click there on register and you can go from there. As always, if you are a star or superstar member already, you can join for free. Please look out for an email with the link to join on the day of the webinar, and a second email with the link of the MP4 video presentation within 24 hours of the live event if you are a star or superstar member. If you are a universal member, you can upgrade via your membership portal on my website. You can simply go to my subscription tab in your membership portal and click on view my subscription, and then click on upgrade my subscription, and then scroll down on the page until you find your desired membership that you want to upgrade to, and add that to the cart, and then you can have access to the monthly forecasting forums every month. Okay? Now, one last note about this new moon chart. The message of this relation is definitely loud and clear. We are invited to release old, dense energies, including social conditioning and anything coming from past traumas or disempowerments that we have experienced. So keep that in mind. As best as you can, clear any cellular memory that is no longer in alignment with your higher, lighter energy body, and keep your mind and heart open in every moment of now, no matter what shows up. And this is important because our mind tends to think that by protecting ourselves and by shutting down and by pushing life away, life meaning other people, situations, part of ourselves, by pushing things away, we think that we can handle things better. But the truth of the matter is that with a closed heart, it becomes very difficult to stay present. And without staying present, it makes life so much harder and we suffer so much more than we need to. We really don't need to suffer at all, quite frankly. But of course, the human condition is such that we tend to not be present. We tend to be always a step ahead, or we tend to be in the past, or we tend to be here or there or all over the map, but not necessarily right here. So, as best as you can, trust that all is well and you are being led exactly where you need to go. Simplify, be mindful, dedicate yourself to what's important with compassion in your heart. Compassion is so powerful, especially self-compassion. Sometimes it's easier to be compassionate with others than it is with ourselves. So remember, self-compassion is always the first step towards greater compassion. And ask yourself, if I had incarnated to bring a specific gift to this world, one that would truly allow me to be of valuable service, what might that gift be? And, if you don't believe in reincarnation or in incarnating or things like that, just adjust the question in terms of what resonates with you and what works for you, right? Like if you had a specific gift this time around or in this human body that you're in, one that would truly allow to be of valuable service, what might this gift be? And what might it look like to skillfully and compassionately bring this gift to other people? And that is a really beautiful question as well. So feel free to allow yourself to marinate in that question if you like. Now, if you have an ascendant or any personal planets in 15 to 19 degrees of Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, or Sagittarius, then you are definitely going to feel this new moon more strongly than those of you who don't have planets or points in those degrees and signs. But even if you don't have that, the house placement in your natal chart affected by this new moon is equally as important to take a look at. So take a look at your birth chart if you have one, and look to see which area of your life needs your attention for the next 28 days. Look where 17 degrees of Virgo lands in your chart, and what does that house or that area of your life represent, and where are you invited to make clearer decisions based on your intuitive knowingness in that area of your life, right? So that's something to really kind of like take a look at. Now, if you don't have a birth chart yet, or you don't know how to do that, feel free to watch my video, How to Read Your Birth Chart, if you haven't seen that yet. Towards the end of that 30-minute class, I will let you know how to get a visual of your birth chart online for free. And you will learn how to apply what I share in my videos and in my weekly forecasts to your own birth chart as well, right? So this is a really great video to watch if you haven't seen it yet. It's also a great video to watch before you join the monthly forecasting forums if you haven't joined us yet, or if you haven't watched it yet. And you can get free access to that video on my homepage. If you scroll down and look for free class, click on that link, and then you will be able to get this class for free. Now, if you've been thinking about joining us for the monthly forecasting forums, then definitely watch this video first. And before we talk about setting intentions, which we will do in a moment, I just want to very briefly mention a little bit about my online community and memberships, so you get a sense about whether this is something that might be for you or not. So if you already know this is not for you, feel free to skip that part. But if you might be curious about it, I just want to mention that I have a lot of discounts right now that are probably going to end soon. And these discounts are over 40% off right now. And the other part that's really important to remember with these discounts is that if you sign up for a membership, any of the membership levels right now, they're also locked in for life, as long as you stay an active member. So this is important because once the discounts go up, you will still be locked in for whatever fee you're currently choosing, right? So if you are the kind of person who would like to have monthly support, so if you really feel like that right now the way life is for you, it would be really lovely to feel the sense of support, to kind of like be able to understand yourself better, to understand the energies better, to connect with everything in a more intuitive way, to be able to really use the tool of astrology to understand your own process a little bit better, and to maybe integrate certain things about yourself a little bit more. If this is you, then I highly recommend checking out the Superstar membership on my website. It's the best value, and it has the most benefits for the relatively small fee you're spending each month. You get a free reading every year. You get free coaching sessions every month. You get a soul-based astrology course for free, my basics course, which includes 6 90-minute video presentations. And at the end of this course, you know how to look at your birth chart, and you know what everything means in your birth chart, and you can read your birth chart. Now, you also get multiple one-on-one tutoring sessions with me for free for every astrology course that you purchase after the basics course. There are 4 more other courses that are part of a curriculum that I teach. So if you get any of the other courses, you get multiple one-on-one coaching sessions, tutoring sessions, sorry. So there's the coaching sessions, which is different from the tutoring sessions. Coaching is life coaching. Tutoring session is connected to just understanding your chart and the astrology, right? So there's two different things. And lastly, the other thing that you also get with the Superstar membership is you get a lot of discounts on additional readings, on courses, on retreats that I offer, as well as everything that is already included in the other two memberships, in the Universal and the Star membership. So as you can see, this is a lot of stuff. The list just goes on and on and on. It's tremendous value. And if that is for you, I really invite you to go for it, take advantage of those high discounts while they last. And remember, it is locked in for life, so it's yours as long as you stay an active member. And if the Superstar membership is not for you and you would prefer to start out with just a universal membership where you just get the forecasts and the videos, the new moon and the full moon videos, start there, start small, and then if you feel like at some point you want to upgrade, you can always upgrade to the next membership level as well. So this is a total possibility as well. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about the new moon intentions. So the new moon is, of course, the best time to set some very powerful intentions for the next 28 days. And so the new moon intentions are always best set within 48 hours after the new moon becomes exact, and definitely not during a moon void of course phase. And so this is important because the moon void of course phases they're very creative phases. They're very sort of like intuitive phases. And when we're setting intentions, we want something to manifest. We want something to come to fruition. And so it's best to do that when the moon is not void, of course. So this month, the best and most potent time to set your intentions would be between 2:01 p.m. on September 9th and 2 p.m. on September 11th, and that's New York time, East Coast time in the US. And there is one brief exception for this, which is an 8-minute window on September 10th between 11:12 a.m. and 11:20 a.m. New York time. There will be a very, very brief moon void, of course, during that time. So if you can avoid those 8 minutes to set intentions, that would be a good idea. Now, if you live in another time zone other than US East Coast time, feel free to join my Facebook fan page or follow me on Twitter. I will be posting several reminders starting on September 9th in the afternoon until September 11th in the afternoon to let you know when is the best and most potent time to set your intentions. So whenever you see those posts on my Facebook fan page or on my Twitter page, you just know, okay, now is a good time for me to set my intentions. Okay, so then you don't have to do the conversion. But you can also do the conversion. There's plenty of places online where that have like time zone converters. So you can just look that up if you like. Now, for more information about setting new moon intentions, if you don't quite know how to do that, how to write that, how to go about that, feel free to go to my website, go to my blog page, which is on the top right-hand corner if you are on the website. And if you're on the phone, you have to go into the menu button that sort of like has like these menu lines. You click on the menu button and then go to the blog page. And then look for astrology articles. And, click on that and scroll down until you find the New Moon Intention article. Or there's also a tag called New Moon Intentions. So if you can find that tag, it's on the right side of the blog page. There's all the categories, and then there's all dates, and then there's tags. And if you scroll down to the tags, you will find a tag that says New Moon Intentions. So you click on that tag, and there's the article right there. Now, to sign up for my free monthly newsletter, that's possible if you want to just receive once a month an email with the new moon video in it and some kind of announcements that I make about my courses or offers that I have or anything that I'm trying to announce. Feel free to join my newsletter. You can do that via my homepage at astrologercoach.com. Or you can simply email us at info@astrologercoach.com and then just write newsletter in the subject line, and we'll be happy to add you to our free newsletter. Now, if there are any other questions that come up, whether that's around what's going on with the new moon energy, with astrology in general, or anything in connection to the memberships, any questions you might have, feel free to reach out to me or my assistant, info@astrologercoach.com. General questions will always be answered by me. If there's anything more personal that requires of me to pull up a birth chart, I will ask you to book a reading with me on my website. On the reading page, a services page also has a reading page on it. And I'll be happy to, support you via reading. Or if it's a question that we can answer during the monthly forecasting forum, if it's anything connected to what we cover in our forum, then feel free to ask your question there, okay? And that's it. That's it for today. Have a fantastic new moon, and my members will see me in 2 weeks at the time of the full moon, so we can look at how far we've come since setting our new moon intentions. And for those of you who are not members yet, I will see you in another 28 days for the next new moon video. All right, have a good one. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.